Hello, I am Nawang Sherpa. I am a registered tutor in Tutormate Nepal from Bodha, Kathmandu. And for this video competition, I present to you my teaching on viruses. So, what is a virus? Are viruses a living thing or a non-living thing? So basically, to answer that, we need to first know about life. Scientists have been struggling to know the answer. What is life? What is your view on life? Do you know the answer to life? What is it? So I believe that everyone should have a curiosity to every questions in this world. Curiosity is what that makes us build new skills, learn new things, and help us enjoy, explore, and know about the world in different way. I guess curiosity is also what improves your studies and is basically what you came for here. So talking about viruses, life, living thing and non-living thing, also coronavirus, here we go. So diving into our curious minds to learn something about virus. Virus is basically a microorganism along with bacteria, algae, fungi, protists. Virus can be termed as microorganisms because it is rather difficult to see them by naked eye and we need a special instrument called microscope to see them. Some of the notable microorganisms include all here in photos. Microbiology is the study of microorganisms which are only visible in microscope. The first microscope was invented by Antoine van Leeuwenhoek, who was a tailor, and out of his curiosity he wanted to make something new from that lens and the ropes he had, and from that he created this device named as microscope. And to his surprise, he was able to see various kinds of weird looking organisms in a lake nearby to him. And talking about that, where microorganisms were firstly named and observed, then came the discovery of microorganisms and microscope. So different types of microscopes are compound microscope, stereo microscope, digital microscope, fluorescence microscope, inverted microscope, and automated imaging system microscope. So all this microscope has a variety of mechanisms and functions in them, and most of them have been used for variety kinds of stuffs. And right now we are especially dealing with viruses, and for viruses fluorescence microscope and electron microscope are mostly used. And talking about microorganisms, most microorganisms are harmless. Do you know that? Although it may cause us diseases and stuffs to cause harm in our body, but your body is full of microorganisms. Altogether, there are 10 times more microbes in your body than there are human body cells. Our intestine is a home to most of the microorganisms and we call them microbiome. We eat with them, we eat them, we live with them, as most of the microorganisms are even present in our skin. And you get them from the air and water we are in contact to our daily life. Talking about viruses, as you may have heard of coronavirus, so I would like to ask a question. Is it living or non-living? This is a debate that goes on in this recent era, that is a virus living or non-living, and we will be discussing about that in few minutes. So talking about what is life, that I had stated before, life basically needs growth, reproduction, heredity, homeostasis, metabolism, cellular, and respond in their body functions. So they must be able to replicate one of its own kind, also they must be able to grow in their life phase, and they must have this heredity in themselves in the presence of genetic material like DNA or RNA, and carry out functions that would respond to the environment and have a cellular structure and composition. This is what we call them alive. And if we meet any creature that are outside the earth and that are able to do all of them, we can call them they are alive, and life functions are basically able for them. So talking about viruses, it's a rather strange stuff when we deal about life with virus. So virus is a group of microorganisms with a simple acellular organization and a distinct pattern of multiplication. Although they have a pattern of multiplication in them, it's rather strange, like it's not on par with other living organisms. And there are abundant presence of viruses in this earth. Yes, so there are more living organisms, there are more viruses than other living organisms. But are they living? So the first virus was actually found by by the guy named Baserink, who coined the term virus. Actually, he was not aware that it was virus or not. So when he was studying about healthy plants that became sick, so he named virus for them, stating poison. So he was studying about filtering plant that, and later on to his surprise that filtering plants became sick, and he coined the term virus after that. And another person named Dmitry Ivanovsky worked in a disease in tobacco plants, and to his surprise he studied the same kind of pattern that earlier Baserink had studied about. So these spots, he named it tobacco mosaic virus. So talking about the patterns he had seen, and the virus to his discovery was named tobacco mosaic virus. So these diseases lived, brought in the discovery of virus, and all studies of virology came after that. So viruses also have nucleic acid and protein like other living organisms do, but they are rather strange. So why are they strange? What happens? Talking about its one of its weird kinds, they are basically not termed as species, but we call it a type of virus. And the coronavirus, influenza virus, rhabdovirus, rotavirus, all comes in the type of virus we see. And either it is not an organism and not even a chemical, it behaves like both of them. So we basically say that virus is a link between living and non-living things. So considering about virus as a non-living thing, they don't have cell, they cannot break down food and also cannot use oxygen, they cannot function on its own, and viruses do not respond to stimuli in the environment such as light, sound, temperature, chemical, gravity, heat, pressure, and water. It is these reasons that we do not term virus as a living, and we call them a non-living thing. But why do we still refer them as living thing? Why is it so hard to call them a living thing? Because we'll come into that so fast, and the virus that is the largest so far till that is the Mimi virus, and it can be up to the length 600 nanometer. Yep, that is quite small. And the smallest virus is MS2 virus, which can be up to 27 nanometer. Well, just like we cannot see bacteria, even the bacteria cannot see virus if it was for this length. And this length means it is up to 1000 millionth time the length of a bacteria. So just imagine how small is it. Okay, so talking about the types of virus, there are so many types of viruses. This one here is bacteriophage, and we know about the coronavirus. The another types are smallpox virus, filovirus, hepatitis D virus, hantavirus, rabies virus, herpes virus, and papillomavirus. So, virus can be classified into different groups on the basis of shapes, types, life cycle, and genetic material. Okay, so that seems interesting. Just like we classify human beings into different type, like intelligent and non-intelligent, different race, different caste, and different religion, even virus can be classified into these four types. But we will not be dealing them with detail, so we will be talking about shape of virus. Okay, so shape of virus. So virus can be crystal shape, for example polio and hepatitis B. Virus can be filamentous shape, for example tobacco mosaic virus, discovered by Dmitry Ivanovsky. Virus can be spherical shape, for example influenza virus and coronavirus. Both of them has caused millions of deaths, and it is still causing the deaths in the recent era. And the virus can be of spacecraft shape, for example bacteriophage, that attacks only bacteria. And these viruses have an important medical and genetic studies. For example, we use virus for development of vaccines and studying different kinds of cure, and yes, they have various uses and implications on other fields of biology and even other fields and disciplines. Okay, so viruses are very important. So what do viruses have? What are they made of? Okay, so viruses, the main component of virus is nucleic acid. That could be either DNA or RNA. We hear this term a lot, right? And DNA are those substance, or DNA are basically nucleotides that are two strands of nucleotides. So you can refer as D to be double. So virus can have DNA or RNA. So RNA are those with one strand of nucleotides. DNA can change into RNA in the process of transcription, and this is a genetic material that contains information to make protein. As we may know what is protein, so DNA or RNA are such components that are essential to make protein. They contain information in the form of genetic code. So the another component of virus is a protein in the form of coat in capsid and enzymes. The structure of the virus given here, the outer structure is called a capsid, and capsids are basically protein, and it has various use application in replication. So viruses themselves can contain essential enzymes like lysozyme and polymerase. For example, okay, so there's no need of example here. So lysozyme, polymerase, reverse transcriptase to reproduce themselves in a host cell. So we will come to know what is a host cell. So some protein form the protective layer of the virus. Yes, so that was I talking about. So genetic information is there inside the virus, and we need something to protect the genetic information, right? So it is this capsid which protects the genetic information, and there may be envelope outside as well. So envelope is one of the thing we see in everyday life when we talk about the structure of coronavirus. So talking about the envelope may be present or not present, but in coronavirus it is present, and it is made up of lipid bilayer derived from its host. It can have viral coated glycoproteins projected outwards to the envelope. So as we see in the structure of coronavirus, that something is radiating from the center, right? That are called glycoproteins that are projected outwards to envelope. So these are basically lipid bilayer derived from its host. We will still come to know what our host. I guess your curiosity is still driving faster and forward. So talking about their structure, this video will give you more information about the structure of virus.
They're made up of a protein coat surrounding a strand of genetic material. The genetic material can either be DNA or RNA. Sometimes a membrane called an enveloped particle. This envelope isn't made by the virus, but is actually stolen from the membrane of the host cell. This is a great strategy by the virus. It makes it harder for the host cell to identify the virus as foreign.
Okay, so I hope this video made it clear how the structure of virus looks like. So going forward to talk about if viruses are living or non-living thing, we will basically talk about how they cause illness. So this will give you a brief idea of why they are called living. So viruses attach themselves to a host cell. Host cell are those organisms which help virus to grow. So they help virus to grow, and viruses attach to these host cells by a help of specific receptor on their body. This receptor could be present in glycoprotein, on their envelope body, or in the capsid. So by this help, they are they are embedded in the viral envelope. So just like the given photo out here, given diagram out here, this virus out here has no envelope, right? So when this virus come here, and if this human cell is considered suitable host for this virus, then this virus will come and attach to only one specific site, that is called a receptor site for the virus. So this virus comes and attach out here. The receptor site helps the virus to embed the virus, like to catch the virus and take everything out of it. So what does the virus take from there? We will talk about it in a diagram later on. So virus can only reproduce inside a living cell as host. So this is the reason why the scientists call virus as living. So virus uses host as a factory and force them to produce new viruses of its own kind. So as I said, reproduction is one of a key ingredient for life. Viruses use this host cell to produce new viruses of themselves, and they are very strange. They are very like a murderer. They use chemical machinery of host. Virus infects an organism from one kingdom and cannot infect organisms from another kingdom. Virus can infect species of organisms that are closely related, for example humans, bats and pangolin. All they together form a specific receptor site for coronavirus, right? So in this way, some of the virus can mutate themselves to infect others in a strange or better way. Okay, so the diagram out here explains how virus replicates in its host cell. For an enveloped virus, it attaches to a specific receptor site, and while they enter the specific receptor site and the host cell accepts the virus, the capsid is broken down out here. That is, this phase is called uncoating. And later on, the capsid itself gets broken down, and only DNA is released. So when the DNA released, so as DNA is a genetic material, it includes themselves to the part of nucleus out here, and in some cases like RNA virus, they have to get transferred to DNA and then go into the process of replication. So it is in the nucleus where replication begins. Replication basically means division of DNA. So while the DNA replication is taking place and all the DNA assembles into one point, all of them are ready to go outside, right? So while they go outside, they again come out in the process of budding. So budding is a process where the virus is ready to leave the host cell. And in this process, it is in this process that the envelope or the glycoproteins are improvised or added to the virus, and later on the new viral DNA particle is released. So yes, the virus can reproduce, but only in the host cell, right? So I guess it can be referred to living, but we are still not sure if we are to consider virus as living or non-living. The debate continues on, and our curious minds, let our all curious minds go forward and learn everything possible in the world of science.